In your experience working with in doing this kind of work yourself and in interacting with more game folks, what are this what's the secret sauce that the masters understand? You know what I mean? What is the real thing they just get? When you work with a game designer, you do this kind of thinking yourself, you're talking to somebody and it's like, oh yeah, they get it, right? They, as soon as they approach a topic or a subject, either something that you've worked on or something that they have to be passionate about, and like, they understand the special sauce. What's the special sauce?
Well, I think they know how to prioritize and they know what to do that is sequenced right of in order of importance and priority of like how you would start building things. A lot of it is, a lot of people who are new to it, they want to do too much. And
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, if you have too much going on and too much interactivity, you're not putting yourself in the shoes of the user to really understand that it takes a lot to kind of learn something and understand something, and to communicate that. And so I think, like a lot of people who are masters at it, they're actually, uh, they're very simple. They know that it is more important to get one thing right, and to work with that than to try to do too many things at once.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and if
Yeah.
they are going to do something a bit more ambitious, they have a clear sort of idea of what is important to do, and prototype first over other things. And I think they're able to very quickly show with a smaller version of their vision whether that bigger vision is worth going for. So they're able to almost test something very quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and either drop it or change or be able to kind of say, well, there is something here. This was a hypothesis. A lot of it is research, and a lot of it is you you. The difficulty is you can only make a couple of mistakes before they become very detrimental to the project. So you don't have that. You can get something wrong once, but
Mm-hmm.
if it happens again, then you really have to ask yourself, like, what is it that you're picking to show that this is a viable
Mm-hmm.
work. And a lot of times, yeah, it could be interviews, could be the story, but a lot of times it's, again, like testing a mechanic and like building a little world and doing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times, you know um like polish and beauty, and you know those are interesting, but I think it's more important to be specific about what I call a user journey, and I think like developing a user journey is like the equivalent of writing a script or storyboarding. It's just like, this is what's going to happen, this is where it could work, this is how long we anticipate things would happen, these are some of the main emotional points, these are some of the things that people will encounter. um, so I think those types of specifics also, like masters, are able to kind of pinpoint and demonstrate so that it builds confidence, in what's happening. So, you know, um, I think those are the bigger ones. I think the broader, more successful games, they're just really fascinating from, what kind of stories that they're kind of trying to tackle and to do, but they are still very tight, they're still very entertaining and engaging. So I think those are the things that are all important.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's spot on. And, I'm curious because it kind of lends me into my next question was, as part of the ISET program you helped found here at Hopkins, students would participate in a course entitled The Future of Cinematic Gaming. And that's interesting because that feels where some of the rubber meets the road with some of this. And, as part of the game covers, part of the coursework is like every student has to cover the design process. And it seems like every studio kind of has their own, once again, not to use the word secret sauce too much, but secret sauce that they might go through. And when you were designing that course, and you're working with your colleagues, was there a kind of conversation about what makes the best design process?
um yeah, I think um, there are new tools that people use to show, and I think they're out there online, like prototyping games or thinking about that. Um, I don't, I'm not sure what the design process, if it's like a one size fit all, but and I think that course is incredible and taught by some incredible people as well. And I've co-created the course with them. But I think what we're trying to show is, I think, one, there is a whole genre of indie games out there that most people might not be aware of. That I think if you start exploring and being inspired by how people are thinking about the medium in new and creative ways, I think it'll help jog what you think is the best design process. I do think there is something happening now in games in particular where it's no surprise that they're more successful than movies, and they're
Mm.
making more money, and they're doing all that. And I think that's something that I think we're just at the tip of. I think there's going to be a greater merger between what we think, those two worlds have been very separate, but games have just become a lot more cinematic, and are
Mhm.
really building in a lot of very intriguing ways to build in the narrative of great films. And so I think it just shows you that the design process is still around narrative. Like you really do need to understand and make that what's going to make your game or your product so much more
Yeah.
compelling, is that you're bringing something that at the core of it is something people want to know more about or want to be in that world. Whether you create that world, people feel that there is something there. I mean, I was playing. My son has this game called Unpacking. Where it's just basically like you just are unpacking in a digital world. And it feels kind of weird, but then it gets strangely satisfying. But then it has like weird clues,
Mm.
of like a photo album or
Mm.
something emotional that will just kind of get there, of like figuring out why you're there and unpacking in
Oh,
this.
interesting.
So those are things that we didn't know we have a need
Mhm.
for, but we do. The process of unpacking it can be very emotional too, because it's new, or maybe you're moving somewhere else, or there's so much. And to like wrap that around game design, which is quite simple, taking boxes out and you're putting,
Mhm.
it feels great. And it also like ties into just our sense of being, um children love that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and you kind of understand why, because I think there's something about what those objects mean to them and what they can mean for others. So